Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where we unlock the timeless wisdom of ancient Stoic philosophy to help you navigate the challenges of modern life. I'm here to share practical insights from the greatest philosophers in history, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, and show you how their teachings can transform your daily experience. Our mission is simple. Take the profound wisdom that guided emperors, warriors, and thinkers through their darkest moments and make it accessible for your everyday struggles. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself. How do you build the iron self-discipline that made ancient warriors unstoppable? Think about this for a moment. We live in a world where distractions are everywhere, where instant gratification is just a click away, and where maintaining focus feels harder than ever. Yet over 2,000 years ago, philosophers developed techniques that created unshakable mental strength. Consider Marcus Aurelius, who wasn't just a philosopher sitting in an ivory tower. He was the most powerful man in the world, leading the Roman Empire while fighting wars on multiple fronts. He faced plagues, betrayals, and constant pressure that would crush most people. Yet his personal journal, which we now call Meditations, reveals a man who had mastered the art of self-discipline so completely that external chaos couldn't touch his inner peace. Here's what most people get wrong about discipline. They think it's about forcing yourself to do things you hate, or about becoming some kind of rigid, joyless machine. But the Stoics discovered something far more powerful. True discipline isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. When you master yourself, you become free from the emotional roller coaster that controls most people's lives. The ancient Stoics weren't just philosophers. They were warriors, athletes, and leaders who lived in the real world. They faced the same fundamental challenges you face today. How do you stay motivated when you don't feel like it? How do you maintain standards without burning out? How do you build resilience that lasts? How do you find genuine satisfaction in a world full of empty promises? In the next 7 sections, we're going to explore the specific techniques that these ancient masters used to forge unbreakable willpower. You'll discover why they trained their bodies to strengthen their minds, how they found the perfect balance between effort and rest, and what made their mental toughness superior to anything we see today. Most importantly, you'll learn practical methods you can start using immediately. This isn't just theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have worked for over 2 millennia. Whether you're struggling with morning motivation, dealing with difficult people, or trying to find meaning in your daily routine, the Stoics faced these exact same challenges and developed solutions that still work today. The question isn't whether you have the potential for iron self-discipline. You absolutely do. The question is whether you're ready to learn the ancient secrets that can unlock it. Let's begin this transformation together. 1. Train your body to command your mind. You're standing in your Chicago apartment at 5:30 a.m., staring at your running shoes. Outside, it's 20 degrees and snowing. Your warm bed is calling you back, and every fiber of your being wants to hit snooze just one more time. You know you should exercise, you know it's good for you, but your body feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. This internal battle happens every single morning, and most days comfort wins. This exact struggle would have been familiar to Seneca, one of Rome's greatest Stoic philosophers. But Seneca discovered something profound that changed everything. You treat the body rigorously so that it will not be disobedient to the mind. He understood that this morning moment isn't really about exercise. It's about who's in charge. Every time you choose the harder path when your body wants the easier one, you're training the most important muscle you have, your willpower. When you step into that cold morning air, when you choose the stairs over the elevator, when you take a cold shower instead of a warm one, you're sending a clear message to every cell in your body. The mind is the commander here. The ancient Stoics weren't the weak, bookish philosophers we sometimes imagine. Marcus Aurelius spent years on military campaigns, sleeping in tents and leading armies through brutal conditions. Early Stoic philosophers were distance runners, boxers, and athletes. They deliberately sought out physical challenges because they understood something we've forgotten. Every moment of physical discomfort is an opportunity to strengthen mental resilience. Picture yourself 6 months from now. You've been consistently choosing the harder physical path every day. You wake up and your body no longer argues with your decisions. When you decide to exercise, it happens automatically. When you choose healthy food over junk, there's no internal debate. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when you train your body to obey your mind. The connection between physical and mental discipline runs deeper than most people realize. When you're struggling with a difficult decision at work, your mind draws on the same willpower reserves you used to get out of bed early. When you need to have a tough conversation with someone you love, you're using the same mental strength you built by choosing the salad over the burger. Consider this scenario. You're in a heated meeting with your boss. They're being unreasonable, and every instinct tells you to fight back or shut down completely. But because you've trained your body to respond to your mind's commands, you now have access to a third option, staying calm and responding with wisdom instead of emotion. This is the power of physical discipline training. The Stoics had a specific way of thinking about this training. They called it preparing for life's inevitable challenges. Epictetus, who was born a slave and understood hardship intimately, taught that voluntary discomfort prepares you for involuntary discomfort. When you choose to be cold, hungry, or tired on purpose, you're building immunity to the times when life forces these conditions on you. Let's make this practical. Tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off, you have a choice. You can stay in bed and let your body make the decision, or you can remember Seneca's words and show your body who's really in charge. Start small. Even 5 minutes of exercise or 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower sends the message. The beautiful thing about this training is that it compounds. Each small victory makes the next one easier. Your body begins to trust that when your mind makes a decision, it means business. This trust becomes the foundation for every other area of discipline in your life. Think about the last time you successfully resisted a temptation or pushed through when you wanted to quit. Remember that feeling of satisfaction afterward? That wasn't just pride. That was your mind celebrating its victory over your body's immediate desires. The Stoics called this the beginning of true freedom. Here's what separates people with iron discipline from everyone else. They understand that the body is not the enemy. Your body wants to keep you safe and comfortable, which is good. But when comfort becomes the highest priority, you lose the ability to do great things. By training your body to follow your mind's leadership, you're not fighting against your nature, you're fulfilling your highest nature as a rational being. The next time you're facing a physical challenge, whether it's getting up early, eating well, or exercising when you don't feel like it, remember that you're not just taking care of your body. You're training the commander of your life, your mind. Every rep, every step, every moment of chosen discomfort is making you stronger in ways that extend far beyond the physical. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journal, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." He understood that physical discipline isn't separate from your life's work. It is your life's work. It's how you become the person capable of doing whatever life demands. Building on this foundation of physical-mental discipline, we must understand the delicate balance required to sustain this practice without burning out. True discipline isn't about pushing harder indefinitely. It's about finding the perfect rhythm that you can maintain for life. 2. The perfect balance that prevents burnout. You're sitting in your San Francisco tech office at 11 p.m., surrounded by empty coffee cups and the glow of multiple monitors. Your colleagues left hours ago, but you're still here, pushing through another all-nighter because you believe that more effort always equals better results. Your eyes are burning, your mind is foggy, but you keep telling yourself that this is what success requires. You've been running on this philosophy for months, and lately you're starting to crack. This relentless approach would have concerned the ancient Stoics deeply. While they valued discipline and hard work, they understood something crucial that modern culture often misses. Sustainable excellence requires balance, not burnout. At the Oracle of Delphi, the famous inscription read, "Moderation in all things," and the Stoics took this wisdom to heart. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, understood that even discipline needed discipline. He knew that pushing too hard in one direction would eventually snap back and destroy everything he'd built. The key wasn't maximum effort. It was optimal effort that could be sustained over time. Imagine your discipline as a fire. If you pile on too much fuel too quickly, you get a massive blaze that burns bright for a moment, then consumes all the oxygen and dies out. But if you add fuel steadily and consistently, you maintain a strong, warm fire that can burn for years. The Stoics were masters of this steady flame approach. Consider Seneca, who was not only a philosopher but also one of Rome's wealthiest men and a political advisor. He had learned through experience that periods of intense work needed to be balanced with periods of reflection and rest. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Even in achievement, there must be cycles." You've probably experienced this yourself. Think about a time when you pushed too hard for too long. Maybe you worked 16-hour days for weeks, exercised obsessively, or maintained some extreme standard that eventually became impossible to sustain. What happened? Most likely, you crashed hard and found yourself doing the exact opposite of what you'd been forcing yourself to do. This is why the Stoic approach to discipline is so powerful. It's designed for the long game. Epictetus taught that true strength comes not from how much you can endure in a single burst, but from how consistently you can show up over years and decades. He understood that extreme efforts often mask a lack of real discipline. Here's a scenario that might sound familiar. You decide to transform your life completely. You're going to wake up at 5 a.m., exercise for 2 hours, eat perfectly, work 12-hour days with complete focus, and read philosophy every night. For 3 weeks, you're unstoppable. Then life throws you a curveball, a family emergency, a big deadline, or just simple exhaustion, and your entire system collapses. You end up feeling worse than when you started. The Stoics had a different approach. They believed in what we might call sustainable intensity, bringing your full presence and effort to whatever you're doing, but not trying to be superhuman every moment of every day. Marcus Aurelius would spend intense periods leading military campaigns. then return to Rome for periods of governance and reflection. Even his personal writing practice was consistent but measured. Let's make this practical for your life. Instead of trying to revolutionize everything at once, pick one area where you want to build stronger discipline. Maybe it's your morning routine. Instead of attempting a perfect hour-long routine immediately, start with 5 minutes of intentional practice. Do this consistently for a month, then gradually expand. The beautiful thing about this balanced approach is that it actually builds stronger discipline than the extreme method. When you know you can sustain your practices, you develop genuine confidence. When you know you're not going to burn out, you can invest fully in the process without that nagging voice in the back of your head warning you that this is temporary. Think about the people you admire who have sustained excellence over long periods. Whether they're athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, or leaders, they all understand this principle of sustainable intensity. They work hard when it's time to work hard, rest when it's time to rest, and maintain practices that they can continue for decades. The Stoics also understood that balance doesn't mean mediocrity. There's a difference between being balanced and being lukewarm. A balanced approach can still involve periods of intense effort. The difference is that these periods are sustainable because they're part of a larger rhythm rather than an unsustainable sprint. Consider your current approach to discipline. Are you trying to be perfect all the time? Or are you building practices that you could maintain even during difficult periods? The test of real discipline isn't what you can do when everything is perfect. It's what you can maintain when life gets complicated. Here's what balanced discipline looks like in practice. You have non-negotiable daily practices that you maintain no matter what, and you have additional practices that you scale up or down based on your circumstances. Your foundation stays strong, but you're flexible about everything else. The Stoics called this preferred indifference, having things you work toward and enjoy, but not being attached to them in a way that destroys your peace. You prefer to exercise for an hour, but if you only have 20 minutes, you still show up. You prefer to eat perfectly, but if you're traveling or dealing with stress, you make the best choices available without self-punishment. This principle of balanced discipline becomes even more powerful when we understand the warrior mindset that ancient Stoics cultivated, a mindset that combined intense preparation with calm flexibility in the face of any challenge. 3. Why ancient warriors had superior mental toughness. You're walking into the biggest business presentation of your career in downtown Manhattan. The conference room is filled with executives who could make or break your company's future. Your heart is pounding, your palms are sweating, and that familiar voice in your head is listing all the ways this could go wrong. As you sit down at the polished table, you realize that despite all your preparation, you're fighting the same battle humans have fought for thousands of years. The battle between fear and courage. Marcus Aurelius faced this exact same internal struggle, but on a scale most of us can't imagine. Picture him preparing for battle against Germanic tribes along the Danube River. Thousands of lives depended on his decisions. One strategic mistake could destroy the Roman Empire. Yet his personal writings reveal a man who had learned to transform pressure into power through a specific mental training that we've largely forgotten. The ancient Stoics weren't just philosophers who happened to be tough. They were systematically developing mental resilience using methods that made them nearly unbreakable. Marcus Aurelius spent years on military campaigns not just as a duty, but as training for the mind. Every uncomfortable night in a military tent, every difficult decision under pressure, every moment of uncertainty, was sharpening his mental edge. Here's what made their approach different from modern attempts at mental toughness. They understood that the mind, like a muscle, grows stronger only when challenged consistently. But they didn't wait for challenges to find them. They actively sought out difficulty as training. Early Stoic philosophers were distance runners who pushed their bodies to exhaustion, boxers who faced physical pain regularly, and athletes who competed precisely because competition reveals character under pressure. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, walking into that same conference room scenario. But this time, instead of fighting anxiety, you feel calm alertness. Your mind is clear, your breathing is steady, and you're actually looking forward to the challenge. This transformation isn't fantasy. It's what happens when you train your mind the way ancient warriors trained theirs. The Stoics discovered that mental toughness isn't about eliminating fear or discomfort. It's about changing your relationship with these experiences. When Epictetus taught students at his school, he would deliberately create stressful situations to help them practice responding with wisdom instead of emotion. He understood that comfort is the enemy of growth. Consider how different this is from our modern approach. We try to avoid discomfort, minimize stress, and create safe spaces where we never have to face difficulty. But the Stoics realized that this approach actually makes us weaker. When you avoid all small challenges, you become incapable of handling large ones. When you eliminate all stress from your life, you lose your ability to perform under pressure. Think about the last time you handled a crisis really well. Maybe it was a medical emergency, a work deadline, or a family situation that required you to step up. Afterward, you probably felt a sense of pride and confidence that lasted for weeks. That feeling wasn't just satisfaction. It was your mind recognizing its own strength. The Stoics built their entire training system around creating these moments of proven capability. Here's where it gets practical for your life. The ancient warriors didn't just wait for battles to test their courage. They created training scenarios that prepared them for anything. You can do the same thing. Start having difficult conversations you've been avoiding. Take on projects that stretch your abilities. Put yourself in situations where you might fail and learn to be comfortable with uncertainty. The Stoics used a specific technique they called negative visualization. Marcus Aurelius would regularly imagine losing everything he valued, his position, his health, his family. This wasn't morbid thinking. It was mental preparation. By facing these possibilities in his mind, he became immune to the fear of loss that paralyzes most people. When real challenges arose, he was already mentally prepared. Let's make this immediately actionable. Tomorrow, when you face your first stressful situation, instead of trying to avoid or minimize it, ask yourself, how can I use this as training? Whether it's a difficult phone call, a challenging workout, or an uncomfortable social situation, treat it as an opportunity to strengthen your mental resilience. The warrior mindset isn't about aggression or dominance. It's about preparation and adaptability. Ancient Stoic warriors were successful because they had trained themselves to remain calm and think clearly regardless of external circumstances. They could make good decisions whether they were comfortable or suffering, whether they were winning or losing. This mental training creates a compound effect in your life. Each time you choose to face difficulty rather than avoid it, you're building evidence for yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. Your confidence isn't based on everything going perfectly. It's based on knowing you can adapt to anything. The sports metaphors throughout Stoic writings aren't accidental. Wrestling, running, boxing, these activities all share the same essential element. They force you to perform when you don't feel like it, when you're tired, when you're under pressure. The Stoics understood that this is exactly what life demands, so they trained accordingly. Here's what separates people with warrior-level mental toughness from everyone else. They've learned to find opportunity in every obstacle. Where others see problems, they see training. Where others see setbacks, they see chances to practice resilience. This isn't positive thinking. This is practical wisdom developed through consistent practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wasn't theoretical advice from someone who lived an easy life. This was hard-won wisdom from a man who faced plagues, wars, betrayals, and constant pressure while leading an empire. The warrior mindset we've developed becomes especially crucial when dealing with the people around us, because the most difficult battles aren't fought against external enemies. They're fought against our own impulses to control what we cannot control. 4. Control yourself, not others. The leadership secret. You're sitting at your family dinner table in suburban Denver, watching your teenage son scroll through his phone instead of engaging in conversation. Your spouse is complaining about work for the third time this week, and your elderly father is making the same political comments that irritate everyone. The frustration builds in your chest as you think about how much better everything would be if they would just listen to your advice, follow your example, and make the changes you know would improve their lives. You've tried reasoning, arguing, and even silent treatment, but nothing seems to work. This scenario would have been deeply familiar to Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with family members, senators, and citizens who constantly frustrated him with their poor decisions. But Marcus discovered something that transformed his leadership and his peace of mind: the difference between self-discipline and trying to discipline others. He wrote in his personal journal how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. The paradox of control is one of the most powerful insights the Stoics developed. The more energy you spend trying to control other people's behavior, the less control you actually have over your own life. Yet the more you focus on controlling yourself, the more influence you naturally develop with others. This isn't manipulation, it's leadership through example. Imagine walking into that same family dinner 6 months from now. Your son is still on his phone, your spouse is still complaining, and your father is still making his comments. But instead of feeling frustrated, you feel calm. Instead of trying to change them, you're modeling the behavior you want to see. You put your own phone away, you listen without trying to fix everything, and you respond to negativity with patience rather than reaction. Suddenly, without any effort to control them, the atmosphere begins to shift. Seneca understood this principle deeply when he advised leaders in Rome. He taught that true authority comes not from position or force, but from self-mastery. When people see someone who has genuine control over their own emotions, reactions, and decisions, they naturally want to learn from that person. But when they see someone who can't even control their own temper trying to control everyone else, they resist. The Stoics had a specific phrase for this: strict with yourself, tolerant with others. This doesn't mean accepting poor behavior or having no standards. It means holding yourself to the highest possible standard while understanding that other people are fighting battles you know nothing about. They have their own fears, limitations, and struggles that influence their decisions. Consider this workplace scenario. You're managing a team member who consistently misses deadlines. The old approach would be to lecture them, create more rules, or increase pressure. The Stoic approach is different. First, you examine your own leadership. Are you communicating clearly? Are you providing the support they need? Are you modeling the time management you expect from them? Only after perfecting your own approach do you address their performance, and you do it from a place of wanting to help rather than control. Cato the Younger, one of the most respected Stoics in Roman history, said, "I can forgive anyone's errors but my own." This wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. He understood that the only person's behavior he could truly change was his own. So that's where he invested his energy. This approach made him one of the most influential leaders of his generation. Here's what happens when you apply this principle consistently. People around you start to change naturally, not because you force them to, but because your example creates an environment where better choices become more attractive. Your calm confidence makes others feel safe to be vulnerable. Your consistency makes others want to be more reliable. Your patience makes others less defensive. Think about the people who have had the most positive influence in your life. Were they the ones who constantly told you what to do? Or were they the ones who modeled the behavior they wanted to see? Most likely, they inspired change in you through their example rather than their demands. The Stoics understood that this is how real influence works. This principle becomes especially powerful in intimate relationships. When your spouse makes a decision you disagree with, instead of arguing or withdrawing, you focus on being the kind of partner you want to have. When your children make mistakes, instead of lecturing endlessly, you model the problem-solving approach you want them to learn. When friends disappoint you, instead of cutting them off, you demonstrate the loyalty and understanding you value in friendship. The practical application is straightforward but not easy. Every time you feel the urge to change someone else's behavior, pause and ask yourself, what can I change about my own response to this situation? Instead of thinking, why don't they understand? Think, how can I communicate more clearly? Instead of, why are they so difficult? Think, how can I be more patient? Marcus Aurelius faced constant frustration with Roman citizens who seemed ungrateful for his efforts to improve their lives. But instead of becoming bitter or authoritarian, he wrote, "Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly beat. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest." He learned to be the stable point around which chaos could settle. This approach requires genuine humility, acknowledging that you don't actually know what's best for other people, that you can't see the full picture of their lives, and that your job is to be the best version of yourself regardless of what anyone else chooses to do. This humility, paradoxically, is what makes you truly powerful. The beautiful result of focusing on self-control rather than controlling others is that it frees up enormous mental and emotional energy. Instead of being constantly frustrated by other people's choices, you can invest that energy in becoming someone worth following. This mastery of self rather than others reveals something profound about where true satisfaction comes from, not from external validation or control, but from the deep contentment that comes with daily growth and character development. 5. Find deep satisfaction in daily progress. You're sitting in your Los Angeles apartment after another successful day at your entertainment industry job. Your bank account is healthy, your social media is full of congratulations on your latest promotion, and by every external measure, you should feel accomplished. Instead, you feel empty. You scroll through your phone looking for something to fill the void, order expensive food you don't really want, and wonder why success feels so hollow. The achievements that once excited you now feel meaningless, and you're starting to question whether any of this effort is actually making you happy. This exact experience would have resonated deeply with Epictetus, who understood the difference between external achievement and internal satisfaction better than almost anyone. Born into slavery, he had learned that happiness couldn't depend on circumstances because circumstances are always changing. He discovered something revolutionary. I delight in my own improvement day to day. His joy didn't come from freedom, wealth, or recognition. It came from the simple awareness that he was becoming a better person each day. The modern world has trained us to seek satisfaction in outcomes: the promotion, the relationship, the purchase, the vacation. But outcomes are temporary and often beyond our control. The Stoics discovered that lasting satisfaction comes from process, not results. It comes from knowing that regardless of what happens today, you're building character, developing wisdom, and becoming more resilient. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a completely different relationship to satisfaction. Instead of needing external validation to feel good about yourself, you feel genuine contentment from small daily improvements. You're excited about reading a few pages of philosophy, grateful for a challenging conversation that helped you practice patience, and satisfied by choosing a healthy meal over a convenient one. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about finding joy in the journey rather than depending entirely on destinations. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, found his deepest satisfaction in his evening reflections. Each night, he would review his day not to judge himself harshly, but to notice moments of growth, areas for improvement, and evidence of progress in his character development. His personal writings reveal someone who was genuinely excited about becoming wiser, more patient, and more virtuous. Here's what the Stoics understood that we've forgotten. Progress is always available to you, regardless of your circumstances. You can't always control whether you get the job, win the game, or receive the recognition you want. But you can always control whether you respond to difficulty with courage, treat others with kindness, or choose long-term thinking over short-term impulses. These choices are available every single day, and they compound into a life of genuine satisfaction. Consider this scenario. You're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. The old approach would be frustration, anxiety about being late, and anger at other drivers. The Stoic approach transforms this into an opportunity for growth. You practice patience, use the time for reflection, and arrive at your meeting calm and centered, regardless of whether you're on time. The external situation hasn't changed, but your experience has been completely transformed. Seneca taught that wealth and poverty are equally good training grounds for virtue. Success and failure are equally valuable teachers, and comfort and hardship are equally useful for character development. This perspective makes every single day meaningful because every day contains opportunities for improvement that don't depend on circumstances aligning perfectly. Think about the last time you felt genuinely proud of yourself. It probably wasn't when something good happened to you randomly. It was when you did something difficult, chose integrity over convenience, or persevered through a challenge. That feeling is available to you every day through small choices that build character. The Stoics learned to find this satisfaction consistently rather than waiting for major achievements. The practical application is simpler than you might think. Each evening, spend 5 minutes reflecting on your day with 3 questions. What did I do well today? What did I learn today? How did I grow today? These questions train your mind to notice progress that has nothing to do with external outcomes. You start finding satisfaction in moments of patience, acts of kindness, and decisions that align with your values. This approach creates a positive feedback loop in your life. When you find satisfaction in daily improvements, you become motivated to make more improvements. When you celebrate small victories in character development, you start looking for more opportunities to practice virtue. When you appreciate internal growth, you become less dependent on external validation and more genuinely confident. Epictetus also understood that this daily satisfaction comes from embracing your role as a student of life. Every difficult person teaches you patience. Every setback teaches you resilience. Every success teaches you humility. Every mistake teaches you wisdom. When you see life as a classroom for character development, every experience becomes valuable regardless of whether it's pleasant. The ancient Stoics called this perspective the discipline of desire, learning to want what you have rather than constantly wanting what you don't have. This doesn't mean accepting mediocrity or giving up on goals. It means finding contentment in the present moment while working toward the future, enjoying the process while pursuing outcomes. Here's what changes when you master this approach. You become genuinely happy for other people's success because your satisfaction doesn't depend on comparison. You handle setbacks with equanimity because your self-worth isn't tied to results. You wake up excited about ordinary days because you know they contain opportunities for extraordinary growth in character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This wasn't philosophical theory. This was practical wisdom from someone who had everything the world could offer but found his deepest satisfaction in daily improvements in wisdom, patience, and virtue. To implement this philosophy of internal satisfaction practically, we need a simple daily system that makes these insights actionable and sustainable, regardless of how busy or complicated your life becomes. 6. The 5-minute morning routine that transforms everything. You're rushing through your Washington, D.C. apartment at 6:45 a.m., grabbing coffee with one hand while checking emails with the other. Your day is already spinning out of control before it's even started. You have back-to-back meetings, 3 urgent deadlines, and a schedule that looks more like a game of Tetris than a manageable day. By the time you're on the metro heading downtown, you're already feeling reactive, scattered, and like you're playing catch-up with your own life. Sound familiar? This chaotic start would have troubled Marcus Aurelius deeply, not because he was against busy days, but because he understood that how you begin shapes everything that follows. As Emperor of Rome, he faced days filled with military decisions, political crises, and administrative demands that would overwhelm most people. Yet he discovered that 5 minutes of intentional morning practice could transform his entire day from reactive chaos to purposeful action. Marcus wrote his personal reflections early in the morning, before the demands of empire took over. These weren't elaborate philosophical treatises. They were simple, practical reminders to himself about how he wanted to show up in the world. His morning routine wasn't about perfection. It was about intention. In just a few minutes, he would set his mental foundation for handling whatever the day might bring. Imagine starting tomorrow differently. Your alarm goes off, and instead of immediately reaching for your phone, you take 5 deep breaths and ask yourself 3 simple questions. What kind of person do I want to be today? What challenges might I face? and how do I want to respond to them? What am I grateful for right now? These questions take less than 5 minutes to consider, but they shift your entire day from autopilot to intentional living. The power of this practice isn't in its complexity, it's in its consistency. Seneca understood that small, daily practices compound into life-changing transformations. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end," and he applied this wisdom to each morning. Every day was a chance to begin again, to choose who you wanted to be, regardless of who you were yesterday. Here's what happens when you implement this consistently. Instead of your day happening to you, you start happening to your day. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of reacting with anger, you remember your morning intention to practice patience. When you face an unexpected challenge at work, instead of panicking, you recall that you had already mentally prepared for difficulties. When someone is rude to you, instead of taking it personally, you remember your commitment to respond with understanding. The ancient Stoics called this morning practice premeditatio malorum, imagining potential challenges not to create anxiety, but to build mental resilience. Marcus would spend a few minutes each morning considering what difficulties he might face and how he wanted to respond. This wasn't pessimistic thinking, it was practical preparation. When challenges actually arose, he had already rehearsed his response. Let's make this immediately practical for your life. Here's the complete 5-minute morning routine that the Stoics would recognize. Minute 1. 3 deep breaths and a moment of gratitude. Before you check your phone, look out the window or think about your to-do list. Simply breathe and acknowledge something you're grateful for. This centers your mind and starts your day from abundance rather than scarcity. Minutes 2 to 3. Set your daily intention. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Maybe it's patient, focused, kind, or courageous. Choose one quality you want to embody and briefly visualize what that looks like in practice. Minutes 4 to 5. Mental preparation for challenges. Consider what difficulties you might face today and how you want to respond. If you have a difficult meeting, imagine staying calm and listening carefully. If you know you'll be tempted to skip your workout, visualize choosing discipline over comfort. This routine works because it addresses the fundamental Stoic insight. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to what happens to you. By spending 5 minutes each morning choosing your responses in advance, you're exercising the most important human capacity, the space between stimulus and response. The beautiful thing about this practice is its flexibility. Whether you're traveling, sick, dealing with a crisis, or having a perfect day, you can always find 5 minutes to set your intention. The routine adapts to your circumstances while maintaining the essential elements that create transformation. Epictetus taught his students that philosophy isn't about abstract concepts. It's about daily practice that changes how you live. Your morning routine becomes your daily philosophy practice, the time when you remember who you want to be and prepare yourself to actually be that person when it matters. Consider how different your relationships become when you start each day with intentional choice rather than reactive habit. You're more patient with your family because you've already chosen patience. You're more focused at work because you've already committed to presence. You're more resilient during challenges because you've already practiced resilience in your mind. The compound effect of this practice is extraordinary. After a month, you'll notice that you're less reactive and more responsive. After 3 months, people will start commenting on your calm presence and consistent character. After a year, you'll realize that you've become someone who naturally embodies the qualities you've been practicing each morning. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your 5-minute morning routine is where you claim this power daily. It's where you remember that regardless of what your day brings, you have choices about how to respond. This daily practice becomes your foundation for handling life's inevitable challenges, because when difficulties arise, and they always do, you'll have already built the mental muscles needed to transform every setback into an opportunity for personal growth. 7. Transform every setback into personal growth. You're sitting in your Detroit apartment, staring at the termination email on your laptop screen. After 5 years of dedication, late nights, and what you thought was solid performance, your position has been eliminated due to budget cuts. The shock hits first, followed by anger, then that sinking feeling of uncertainty about the future. Your mind races between practical concerns about mortgage payments and deeper questions about your worth and direction. This wasn't supposed to happen, and you feel completely unprepared for what comes next. This exact scenario would have been deeply familiar to Epictetus, who understood involuntary setbacks better than perhaps any philosopher in history. Born into slavery, he lost his freedom through no fault of his own. Later, he became disabled due to an injury that left him permanently lame. Yet from these experiences, he developed one of the most powerful insights in human psychology. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The Stoics discovered something revolutionary about setbacks. They're not interruptions to your growth, they're accelerations of it. Every challenge that seems to block your path actually contains the seeds of a breakthrough, but only if you know how to look for them. This isn't positive thinking or denial of real problems. This is practical wisdom about how character develops under pressure. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, looking back on this job loss as the best thing that ever happened to you. Not because losing your job was fun, but because the experience forced you to discover strengths you didn't know you had, clarify values you had forgotten, and develop resilience that no comfortable job could have taught you. This transformation isn't guaranteed. It depends entirely on how you choose to respond to the setback. Marcus Aurelius faced setbacks that would have destroyed most people. Plagues killed thousands of his citizens. Wars threatened the empire's borders, and trusted advisors betrayed him. Yet his personal writings reveal someone who had learned to extract wisdom from every difficult experience. He wrote, "The mind that pursues the good, whether it succeeds or fails, is honored by the very pursuit." Here's what the Stoics understood about setbacks that most people miss. They reveal who you really are. When everything is going well, it's easy to think you're patient, resilient, and wise. But setbacks strip away the comfortable illusions and show you your actual character. This revelation isn't punishment. It's information you need to grow. Consider how this job loss might be serving you in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Maybe you had become complacent in your role and needed a push towards something more challenging. Maybe you were so focused on security that you had stopped taking the risks necessary for growth. Maybe this setback is forcing you to develop skills or explore options you would never have considered otherwise. Seneca, who lost his fortune multiple times and faced political exile, taught that setbacks are life's way of testing whether you've actually learned the lessons you think you've learned. It's easy to believe you're resilient when you've never faced real adversity. It's easy to think you're adaptable when your routine has never been disrupted. Setbacks provide the laboratory where theoretical wisdom becomes practical strength. The key is learning to ask different questions when difficulties arise. Instead of "Why is this happening to me?" ask "What is this teaching me?" Instead of "How can I get back to where I was?" ask "Where might this lead me that's even better?" Instead of "What have I lost?" ask "What might I gain?" This reframing isn't about pretending that setbacks don't hurt or that all outcomes are equally good. It's about recognizing that your response to setbacks determines their ultimate impact on your life. The same job loss that crushes one person's spirit becomes another person's catalyst for creating the career they always wanted but were too comfortable to pursue. Think about the people you most admire. Almost certainly, their defining characteristics were forged during their most difficult periods, not their easiest ones. The patience you respect was learned through frustrating experiences. The wisdom you value came from mistakes and failures. The strength you admire was built by carrying heavy loads. Here's the practical application. Every time you face a setback, large or small, train yourself to immediately ask, "How might this make me stronger?" If you're stuck in traffic, it might teach you patience. If a project fails, it might teach you better planning or help you discover a more effective approach. If a relationship ends, it might teach you about your values or help you become more emotionally mature. The Stoics practiced something called the discipline of perception, training themselves to see opportunity in every obstacle. This wasn't naive optimism. It was strategic thinking. They understood that setbacks are inevitable, so they developed the mental habits that would allow them to benefit from difficulties rather than just survive them. Epictetus used a specific technique for this transformation. He would imagine that every setback was actually a test designed by life to help him develop specific virtues. Job loss becomes a test of resilience and adaptability. Relationship problems become tests of patience and understanding. Health issues become tests of courage and acceptance. This perspective transforms you from a victim of circumstances into a student of life. The compound effect of this approach is extraordinary. Each setback you transform into growth makes you more confident about handling future challenges. Each obstacle you turn into an opportunity makes you more creative about finding solutions. Each difficulty you use for character development makes you more resilient and wise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. When you're facing a setback, the present moment contains everything you need to begin transforming it into growth. You can't change what happened and you can't control what will happen, but you can choose how to respond right now." Ultimately, this entire philosophy of disciplined growth culminates in a transformed way of living, a life where challenges become teachers, obstacles become opportunities, and every experience becomes a chance to become the person you're capable of being. Your new life of iron discipline. 6 months later, you're standing in the same Chicago apartment where this journey began, but everything has changed. The morning alarm goes off, and instead of hitting snooze, you're already reaching for your running shoes. That internal argument between comfort and discipline is gone. Your body now trusts that when your mind makes a decision, it happens. At work in downtown Chicago, your colleagues have started asking what's different about you. You handle pressure with a calm they've never seen before. When the project deadline gets moved up unexpectedly, you don't panic, you adapt. When a difficult client loses their temper, You respond with patience that surprises even yourself. The warrior mindset you've developed has transformed you into someone who actually looks forward to challenges because you know there are opportunities to practice strength. Your relationships have transformed too. That family dinner where everyone used to irritate you, now you're the steady presence that actually helps others feel calmer. Instead of trying to control everyone else's behavior, you've mastered yourself. And ironically, people around you have started naturally improving their own habits just by being near your example. The daily satisfaction you feel now doesn't depend on everything going perfectly. Yesterday, your presentation didn't go as planned, but instead of feeling defeated, you felt proud of how you handled the unexpected questions with composure. You found joy in the evening reflection where you noted small improvements in patience, focus, and resilience. Your happiness comes from who you're becoming, not just what you're achieving. That 5-minute morning routine has become the foundation of everything. Those simple questions, what kind of person do I want to be today, have guided thousands of small choices that have compounded into a completely different life. When setbacks arise, and they still do, you don't ask, "Why me?" anymore. You ask, "How will this make me stronger?" And then you get to work finding out. The iron discipline you've built isn't rigid or joyless. It's freedom. Freedom from the emotional roller coaster that used to control your days. Freedom from needing external validation to feel good about yourself. Freedom from the anxiety that comes with having no real confidence in your ability to handle whatever life brings. This transformation isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a life where every challenge becomes training, every setback becomes growth, and every day becomes another opportunity to practice the ancient wisdom that has guided the strongest minds in human history. The Stoics understood something profound. You become what you practice daily. For the past 6 months, you've been practicing strength, patience, resilience, and wisdom. Now these aren't just concepts you understand, they're who you are. If this video has inspired you to begin your own transformation, subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel where we explore practical ancient wisdom for modern life. Like this video if it resonated with you, and share it with someone who's ready to build their own iron discipline. In the comments, tell us which of these 7 practices you're most excited to implement. Your journey to unbreakable strength starts with a single choice. Choose to begin today.